even when I was running for Senate, and each time I ran, quite frankly, not a joke, Philadelphia in particular, got me across the line.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Speechless. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 23-year-old conservative activist, host of Speechless, the radio show, and right here, wherever you're watching from on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, X, Rumble, anywhere like that. Make sure no matter where you guys are to check me out everywhere. Speechless Kev, Kev. Check me out, follow, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that fun stuff. What are we here to talk about today, everybody? The Biden White House reached out to ABC and said, we want to do an interview with George Stephanopoulos. The reason is because Joe Biden knows, and his campaign knows, that they are suffering, that post-debate, the amount of people that have confidence that Joe Biden is competent to run is dwindling daily. And the amount of people that currently believe it, I believe in my last check of this number, Ipsos reported that I think it was like 30% of voters believe, and that's still higher than what I think it should be. 30% of voters believe that Biden is currently competent to run for president and be president. And that is just not at all any type of a confidence-inspiring number there. But Biden did this event with George Stephanopoulos in which he had multiple instances where he was trying to show that maybe the debate was just an off night. Maybe he truly had this cold that everybody told us he had. Maybe. That was the point of the interview. However, today we're going to go through the top 5 highlights of Joe Biden's interview with George Stephanopoulos, the first one since the campaign-crushing debate. Everybody, as we get into this, I want to know what you guys have to say. So make sure you guys are lighting up that comment section about what you think about each of these top 5 clips. Do not forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment, share it with your friends, especially if they're liberal and they won't like me. Those are my favorite people to have a good time with. So we're going to start off with this first clip here. In our first clip, number 1, numero uno, President Joe Biden facing a make-or-break moment, partially blamed his disastrous debate performance last week on former President Donald Trump. In fact, at one point, he even claimed that Trump repeatedly interrupted him during the debate, which actually is just not true. So, everybody, let's take a look and a listen. Just at the first highlight that we have from the very beginning of this debate right here. Take a look and a listen.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the debate. You and your team have said you had a bad night, but your friend Nancy Pelosi actually framed the question that I think is on the minds of millions of Americans. Was this a bad episode or the sign of a more serious condition?
It was a bad episode. No indication of any serious condition. I was exhausted. I didn't listen to my instincts in terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
You know, you say you were exhausted, and I know you've said that before as well, but you came, and you did have a tough month, but you came home from Europe about 11 or 12 days before the debate, spent 6 days in Camp David. Why wasn't that enough rest time, enough recovery time?
Because I was sick. I was feeling terrible. Matter of fact, the docs with me, I asked if they did a COVID test because they were trying to figure out what was wrong. They did a test to see whether or not I had some infection, a virus. I didn't. They just had a really bad cold.
And did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
I don't think I did. Interesting. I want to get to what he says soon after this, but isn't that interesting? Just about a week ago, just over a week ago, the debate happened. This debate was an hour and a half long, and Biden can't remember whether or not he watched it afterwards. Interesting.
Well, what I want to get at is, what were you experiencing as you were going through the debate? Did you know how badly it was going?
Yeah, look, the whole way I prepared, nobody's fault, mine. Nobody's fault but mine. I prepared what I usually would do, sitting down, as I did come back with foreign leaders or the National Security Council, for explicit detail. And I realized about partway through that I get quoted, the New York Times had me down at 10 points before the debate, 9 now, or whatever the hell it is. The fact of the matter is that what I looked at is that he also lied 28 times. I couldn't,
Wait,
I mean,
wait,
the way
wait.
the debate ran,
wait.
not my fault, nobody else's fault. No one else's fault.
He lied 28 times. What? What? It's all of a sudden Trump's fault? You'll go on this tirade about how you were sick, and then Stephanopoulos even pushes him a little bit more and says, "But you were struggling a little bit." Oh, well, he lied 28 times. It's all Trump's fault. And then Stephanopoulos even goes a little bit further into this right here.
But it seemed like you were having trouble from the first question in, even before he spoke.
Well, I just had a bad night.
Oh, well, I just had a bad night. You're not doing so hot right here, Joe. You're one-on-one with George Stephanopoulos for an interview that you asked for. And you can't even remember whether or not you watched the debate that many are saying is destroying your campaign. Interesting. That's number one. President Joe Biden. Number two, he claimed on Friday that he was being honest with himself about his ability to beat former President Donald Trump this fall, despite polling that shows him falling further and further behind. He was clearly lying to himself and the people right here, or people are lying to him. We'll talk about that after we watch this clip.
Two-man race for several months. Inflation has come down. In those last few months, he's become a convicted felon, yet you're still falling further behind.
You guys keep saying that. George, you know polling better than anybody. Do you think polling data is accurate as it used to be?
I don't think so, but I think when you look at all of the polling data right now, it shows that he's certainly ahead in the popular vote, probably even more ahead in the battleground states. And one of the other key factors there is it shows that in many of the battleground states, the Democrats who are running for Senate and the House are doing better than you are.
Well, that's not unusual in some states. I carried an awful lot of Democrats last time I ran in 2020. Look, I remember them telling me the same thing in 2020. I can't win. The polls show I can't win. Remember 2020, the red wave was coming. Before the vote, I said, that's not going to happen. We're going to win. We did better in an off year than almost any incumbent president ever has done.
What? Look, by pretty much every available metric, Joe Biden is losing, yet he continues to deny the reality of that. Somebody is lying to him. These pollsters, the pollsters that he has surrounding him, must be lying to him. Because even other times throughout this interview as well, he claims that, everybody is telling me it's just 50-50. It's just 50-50. Like it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up. No, Joe, it's not a toss-up. You're losing. Bad. And it's not pretty. It is a slaughter as of right now. It is a slaughter. But that's number two. Let's get to number three. President Joe Biden during this interview claimed during an interview on Friday that he is capable of serving as president of the United States for another 4 years, even though 80% of Americans believe that he is too old to be president. Take a look and listen to this clip from that interview.
These are about the future, not the past. They're about tomorrow, not yesterday. And the question on so many people's minds right now is, can you serve effectively for the next 4 years?
George, I'm the guy that put NATO together, the future. No one thought I could expand it. I'm the guy that shoved Putin down. No one thought could happen. I'm the guy that put together the South Pacific Initiative with AUKUS. I'm the guy that got 50 nations, not only in Europe, outside of Europe as well, to help Ukraine. I'm the guy that got Japanese to expand their budget. For example, when I decided we used to have 40% of the computer chip, and we invented the chip, the little chip, the computer chip.
Elections are about the future, not the past.
What? Half of that was incomprehensible, and it's also not clear what he was referring to when he made his remarks about Putin as Russia ignored Biden. Like, let's think about that. He claims he's the guy during that he was in some way the guy that shut down Russia. shut down Putin. But Biden told Russia, you better not invade Ukraine. You better not invade Ukraine. And Vladimir was like, yeah, okay, old man. What are you going to do about it? And did it. Putin remains in control of Russia right now and has shown no signs of ending the war. So, okay, Joe. Okay, but that's number 3. Let's get to number 4. Right here, number 4, one of the most odd answers during this entire interaction. Joe Biden says there's only one way that he'll leave this race, that there's only one way that he'll get out. And it's quite interesting because for a man that claims to be Catholic, he gives quite an interesting answer to this. Just like I said, probably one of the most odd answers throughout the entire thing. Take a look and listen to this clip from the Biden interview right here. Number 4.
You can be convinced that you cannot defeat Donald Trump. Will you stand down?
Well, it depends if the Lord Almighty comes out and tells me that, I might do that.
Well, I mean, on a more practical level, Washington Post just reported in the last hour that Senator Mark Warner is assembling a group of senators together to try and convince you to stand down because they don't think you can win.
Well, Mark is a good man. But we've never had that. He also tried to get the nomination too. Mark's not. Mark and I have a different perspective. I respect him.
And if Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi come down and say, we're worried that if you stay in the race, we're going to lose the House and the Senate, how will you respond?
I go into detail with them. I've spoken to all of them in detail, including Jim Clyburn. Every one of them. They all said I should stay in the race. Stay in the race. None of the people said I should leave.
But if they do?
Well, it's like, they're not going to do that.
You sure?
Well, yeah, sure. Look, I mean, if the Lord Almighty came out and said, Joe, get out of the race, I'll get out of the race. The Lord Almighty's not coming down. I mean, these hypotheticals, George, if all.
You want to talk about a hypothetical, Joe, you just came up with one. If the Lord Almighty comes down, but you also say the Lord Almighty's not coming down. Look, am I going to say it's probable? No, but it's not impossible. A lot of people talk to God. I talk to God, and God talks to us in a lot of different ways. And so, yeah, maybe he's not going to come down with the stereotype white beard, big robes, and say, Joe, you have to stop. He should have done that when you were running for Senate the first time around. But, of course, there's a reason why we're all being challenged today, and I trust in him. But to say that he's not, also, where did this come from? I would only leave if the Lord Almighty comes down, and he's not coming down. And also being pressed on, well, what if these people did? And he says, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. Interesting, because there are several in Congress, most recently Jerry Nadler, and then also Mark Warner from the Senate, and even many in Hollywood, traditional defenders of Biden. Excuse me, like Rob Reiner. And we'll talk about another one here soon. But let's finish off this clip, this highlight.
But it's not that hypothetical anymore. I grant that they have not requested the meeting, but it's been reported.
I've met with them. I've met with a lot of these people. I've talked with them regularly. I had an hour conversation with Hakeem. I had more time with that with Jim Clyburn. I spent time with many hours off and on the last little bit with Chuck Schumer. It's not like I had all the governors. I
agree that the Lord Almighty is not going to come down, but if you are told reliably from your allies, from your friends and supporters in the Democratic Party, in the House and the Senate, that they're concerned you're going to lose the House and the Senate if you stay in, what will you do?
I'm not going to answer that question. It's not going to happen.
Well, I guess we'll call your bluff on that one, Joe. The Lord Almighty to Joe is not coming down. And if you firmly believe that, then he's not going to. But that's number 4. Let's get to number 5, probably one my most favorite part of this entire thing. Number 5, the culmination of this interview. When George Stephanopoulos, the ABC reporter, and usually, while not the worst interviewer I've ever seen, actually came out and in some way almost kind of defended Trump. in this short clip right here, when Biden tried to bring about a discussion of crowd size. Interesting. Right here. Take a look and listen.
Plan to turn the campaign around.
You saw it today. How many people do you draw crowds like I drew today? You find me more enthusiastic than today? Huh?
I mean, I don't think you want to play the crowd game. Donald Trump can draw big crowds. There's no question about that.
He can draw a big crowd, but what's he say? Who's he have?
That was badass. That was badass. One more time. I want to listen to that. That was badass.
I don't think you want to play the crowd game. Donald Trump can draw big crowds. There's no question about that.
He can draw a big crowd, but
And then look at Joe. Joe's eyes, everything popping out of his skull. That's exactly how he sounds too. I do have Demon Goral does say that he sounds a little bit like Batman. I could hear it. I could hear it in old senile Batman. But then you want to hear what Joe does after that, and then actually listen, because I think it's really important to hear exactly what Joe says at the end of this too.
what's he say? Who's he have?
Who does he have? Look, I know trying to decipher what Biden says is not always it can be a futile task. However, I do think it's important to listen to who does he have? Because to Joe Biden, what he really means, what is he actually getting at when he says that? Well, if you think about all these different events that he goes to these different events and he's got Obama comes with him because he needs to have his seeing eye former president to walk him around. He'll have celebrities come to different things for him. He gets Mark Hamill, the washed up one-hit wonder of an actor, and he'll get all these different people. And so Joe believes in his head this idea where we don't have in America. Now, there are still people, and they're not usually on the right side of the IQ bell curve, but there are still people that believe that celebrities actually matter. Like, of course, like, yeah, you want to see a movie that has a good actor in it or something like that. But in the past, people a lot of times put so much more weight to who a celebrity might have picked for a political opinion or what they said about certain products and stuff like that. And sometimes they do. But by and large, a lot of people are kind of getting away from this elitist mentality. And so Joe Biden is stuck 60 years ago when like Elvis went to see Richard Nixon and that was like a huge thing. And it was like, oh, well, he's endorsing Richard Nixon, blah, 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 blah. Which isn't exactly how it went. But you get my point is like he's back in that time period where it meant a lot more as to now the people are like, I don't care if the Lord Almighty comes down and endorses Joe Biden. Joke intended. I don't care because Joe Biden is not all there. And that's what people care about so much more. But those are my top 5 highlights from that interview. I hope you guys like them. Did I miss one? Did I miss your favorite highlight? Let me know in the comments section. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, share it with your friends, all that fun stuff.